On this graphic, we have the greatest playoff performances from the last decade. Crosby with 31 points in back-to-back cup wins.
And the Pittsburgh Penguins have won the Stanley Cup.
Ovechkin with 27 with his only cup win.
Win here for the Caps. Ovechkin lets it go. He scores! Alex Ovechkin.
Makar's 29 points would land him the Conn Smythe. Nikita Kucherov had an unbelievable run with 34 points in 25 games. Logan Couture would lead the San Jose Sharks to the Cup final in 2016.
Yes. Logan Couture scores!
Jonathan Marchessault would lead the Knights into creating NHL history, as they would be the fastest expansion team to win a Stanley Cup and by a wide margin.
Eichel, back across, star! Marchessault!
But in general, we are talking about some of the greatest playoff runs in NHL history, led by many bona fide first ballot Hall of Famers. But something's off here. McDavid isn't on this list. So if you were to guess where McDavid lands, where would you say? Probably around this area. And well, you'd be right, as McDavid actually ranks here, second to only Nikita Kucherov. As again, these are some of the greatest playoff performances of this generation. Wait, no. This right here is just McDavid's assists, as Connor McDavid's total points actually land him right here, with an unbelievable 42 points in 25 games.
McDavid comes into the zone, he's wheeling and dealing. McDavid a pass in front, the shot is blocked and they score!
As this playoff run was so special that it only ranks behind two players, which were Mario Lemieux and Wayne freaking Gretzky. Yes, this Oilers playoff run ended in a Game 7 heartbreak, but with the dominance of Draisaitl and McDavid.
McDavid in the middle.
It would still leave hope in the minds of the players and fans. And heading into the next offseason, things would get interesting. Because here's the thing, when a team wins a cup, it usually comes with a massive downside in that many players on that roster will leave to free agency, knowing that they'll get paid the bag due to their Stanley Cup winning experience, as a team like Colorado would lose their elite second-line center in Kadri.
Shooting! It's in, and it's in, or is it? Where is it? Does Vasilevsky have it? No, it's in. It's in the back.
One of their best step scorers in Burakovsky, and their starting goalie in Darcy Kemper.
Darcy Kemper with a sensational save, shutting the door and robbing the Oilers.
As them winning the cup was absolutely worth losing some key pieces here, but it has also without a doubt led to the Avs having some serious depth issues. But here's what's unfortunate, is that this can even occur with teams who made it to the cup final only to lose. So not only will they lose crucial pieces, but they don't even have a cup. And well, this is exactly what would happen. With the new Leon Draisaitl extension, combined with many depth pieces on expiring contracts, Edmonton would lose Warren Foegele, an extremely valuable middle 620 goal scoring piece. Ryan McLeod, who added size and speed to the bottom six. Granted, they received Matthew Savoy, who has far more upside, but Edmonton needed this depth now, not later. And then, it would happen.
Holloway and Broberg both signed offer sheets with the St. Louis Blues last week.
The Edmonton Oilers would be faced with a massive dilemma, as the St. Louis Blues would offer sheet both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, two players who showed great upside, but by no means were guaranteed stars for their playoff window. On top of that, due to horrendous signings including Jack Campbell and Darnell Nurse, who were being paid a combined $14 million per season, I can't believe that was a thing. Edmonton was against the wall here. Do we commit to unproven players who have shown upside and use all our remaining cap space, or do we instead receive a couple non-first round picks in compensation and add veterans through free agency? And well, they would go with veterans, where, I kid you not, Broberg and Holloway have broken out into studs, as Broberg is looking like a two-way star with the Blues.
Back to the line, here's Falk, moves it on for Broberg, a shot, score! This game is tied!
Holloway scored nearly 30 goals this season on top of 63 points while missing games.
35 to go in the power play, wide open, Holloway shoots, and he scores! Holloway, wide open! And the Blues a power play goal!
This is the dilemma that so many teams face. If they're a serious contender, they can't really afford to guarantee a top 6 spot or top 4 spot to inexperienced players. However, you also just can't expect every 30-year-old something veteran who has seen regression in their game to magically pop off with a 20-goal season in the bottom 6, as these type of pop-offs are typically reserved for those young stars who are having a breakout year. Therefore, when a team is creating championship caliber depth, they either need to have a GM who is pulling off a salary cap masterclass. So think Tampa, Tampa and Florida. 2, you need to have elite pro scouts who can help direct blockbuster trades to where a player you trade for gels seamlessly with a new roster. Think about how game-changing it was for Matthew Tkachuk, Bennett, and Reinhardt deals in Florida, or perhaps Kadri in Colorado. Or 3, scouts that consistently find hidden gems in the draft who can contribute off their entry-level deals. Luosterainen and Antoine Lundell had a combined 37 points this past playoffs. That's more points than what Austin Matthews has produced in the last 5 years. For a team like Dallas, think about Wyatt Johnston and Thomas Harley. For Tampa, Braden Point was fresh off his entry-level contract and is literally the only third-round pick in decades to have a 50-goal season. So him making $5 million while producing like a $13 million player was instrumental in back-to-back cup wins for Tampa. Because, well, this is where things get fascinating. Since McDavid came to the team, Edmonton has done a bad job in terms of cap management. They've done an even worse job in terms of drafting and development, and at best they've been mediocre when it comes to trades and signings. Ekholm was a slam dunk, easily their best trade of this era. The Hyman contract was great, so was Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' extension. You give whatever money they want to McDavid and Draisaitl, but other than that, I think we've seen far more damage done than adding to the team. Yet, because this team arguably has the first and second best players in the league, Connor McDavid, who is hands down the most skilled player in NHL history,
Jetkov. McDavid a steal down the middle. Ditch! Hyman hat trick! But it's Connor McDavid who just stays in the hunt for that puck. Here's Draisaitl finding McDavid. He's in! Backhand score!
this team has made it to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, only to lose.
The Panthers win their second consecutive Stanley Cup.
But okay, running back, right? Well, of course. But Connor McDavid's contract is up next season. In an environment where McDavid might just sign for $17 million per season, the man is entering year 11 of his career. On top of that, McDavid has made some fairly shocking comments about winning and for the future direction of his career. So it then begs the question, when the hell do the Oilers have to do to convince McDavid to sign that extension? If McDavid walks to free agency, or perhaps the Oilers are forced to trade him, it'll go down as one of the most history-altering moves in NHL history. On this graphic, we have the summary of the Peter Chiarelli era, which was the start of the McDavid era in Edmonton. On the left, we have core players that were lost via trade or free agency, and on the right, we have core players who were gained through trades, signings, and non-lottery draft selections who turn into good NHL players. And when I say core, I mean impactful players who went on to be good, if not great players for the team, or the team they were traded to, or players who were big parts of a playoff run. And I mean, yeah. Here's the good news and at the same time, the bad news. On one hand, Peter Chiarelli would trade away two defensemen who were arguably the best defensemen on two separate runs for back-to-back cups for the Penguins and Panthers. The only good roster piece they would acquire was Adam Larsson, who would eventually leave in the expansion draft. You can seriously argue here that the most impactful player was Zach freaking Kassian. And all it took was a combined 5 Stanley Cup wins, an MVP and Rookie of the Year winner. So overall, I'll give Peter an F. You know what? Even F-. Because even with McDavid and Draisaitl popping off during this era, it would still lead to inconsistency up and down the lineup. But the good news here is that this is rock bottom. It only goes up from here. And I know this has been pretty negative, but trust me, you want to stick around. Things definitely start trending upwards, which will make the future direction of this team far more clear. Because after Peter, we had Ken Holland. And honestly, Ken Holland did a pretty good job. Yeah, they lost some key pieces the Oilers will love today, like Michael Kesselring, but he would also bring in high-end scorers, legitimate defensemen, and depth scoring, because without looking at the side-by-side, to be completely honest, I would have thought that Ken Holland did a pretty bad job. But there is a caveat. The biggest blunder was hands down signing Darnell Nurse and Jack Campbell to a combined $14.25 million AAV, as these two signings would cause some cap hell, leading to serious cap implications in the inability to continue to build off each season. But at the same time, he would lock in Leon Draisaitl on a great deal, so give and take, I guess. But when it comes to a Stanley Cup winning roster, as we have seen, no team can afford to make these mistakes. It's that simple. But overall, I would give Ken Holland a B. Also, by no means does Edmonton draft Elaine Hudson if they keep that pick. In fact, given Ken Holland's horrible draft record, there's a 0% chance they draft Elaine Hudson. But the fact that Montreal turned Brett Kulak into a Calder winning defenseman is just hilarious. And lastly, we have the current GM, Stan Bowman. Okay. Looking at this graphic, it's pretty rough, but this is where the cap implications caused by Ken Holland come into full effect. Because losing Broberg and Dylan Holloway to offer sheets, in hindsight, was a massive failure. But at the same time, the reason why Edmonton couldn't match these offer sheets was because of their cap situation. They couldn't bet their salary on two unproven players. So even though this falls on Bowman's record, it was more so a byproduct of Ken Holland. But okay, Rob, what does this all mean? Yes, Edmonton is coming off back-to-back cup finals, but you can easily make the assumption that McDavid and Draisaitl would carry these rosters. And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. McDavid and Draisaitl are the two most prolific scorers since the 2000s. They are right there with Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, which is awesome. But as we just saw with the Panthers series, depth wins cups. So have all these GMs actually made progress? Have they properly supported McDavid? And well, the answer might shock you. On this graphic, we have the amount of goals McDavid and Draisaitl scored represented as a percentage of the team's total goals. For example, back in 2019, McDavid and Draisaitl would score a combined 91 goals.
And now, McDavid, what a spin, the recovery, the shot to score! Connor McDavid! It's not real! It's across, McDavid loading up, inside, Draisaitl scores!
The entire Oilers roster would score 229 goals, meaning that this duo would score nearly 40% of their team's total goals. Impressive, right? Absolutely, but not in the right way. You do not want this. A true contender surely has more depth and is not reliant on their top two guys. So if anything, obviously you want your stars to be stars, but it's a worrying sign if they're scoring 40% of your entire roster's goals. And right here is every season from 2019 up until this past season. And as we can see, there's been a significant decline from 2019's 40% all the way down to 25% in 2024 and 30% in 2025. Meaning that over the course of this timeline, the Oilers have become far less dependent on McDavid and Draisaitl scoring all their goals. Therefore, this number has fallen by 25%, which is a great thing. But okay, how does it stack up against the previous 5 Stanley Cup winners? And well, it actually stacks up great, as Edmonton's past several seasons falls right in line with the past 5 Stanley Cup champions. Is the only team who blew everyone else out of the water was the Vegas Golden Knights, which adds up. But okay, regular season is cool, but how about the playoffs? Well, back in 2020, McDavid and Draisaitl scored 53.33% of all the Oilers team goals. Granted, they got knocked out in the first round, but the fact that they single-handedly scored 8 out of the 15 goals shows you that this team built by Peter Chiarelli had massive depth issues. However, as we keep going down the line, you'll notice that the Oilers have consistently become less and less dependent on McDavid and Draisaitl, where in the past 2 years, this number has dropped from 53.33% in 2020 to around 21%. Compare this against the past 5 Stanley Cup champions, and again, believe it or not, Edmonton has not depended on their star duo to put the puck in the back of the net more than the last 5 Cup champs. Which, to be honest, is kind of hard to believe, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Because here's the thing, McDavid has stated in multiple interviews that he's in no rush to sign an extension. He also said that if the Oilers are still in a championship window, that it would then be an easy extension. And here's the thing, even with the Draisaitl and Bouchard extensions, even if they need to give McDavid a $4 or $5 million raise, due to the salary cap going from about $95 million to $113.5 million by 2027, if Edmonton doesn't make any more bonehead signings, they will absolutely be in contention, as their defensive core has gotten exponentially better, their depth has gotten better, and Leon Draisaitl and McDavid are entering their prime. Their only if is goaltending, so the fact that the NHL is doing so well where their salary cap is raising by so much might have just single-handedly saved the Oilers in terms of keeping McDavid, because on top of that, through the McLeod and O'Reilly trades, they've received 2 blue-chip prospects. Matthew Savoy was a lottery pick who would dominate the AHL. Isaac Howard just won Hobie Baker for being the best player in college hockey. So you just hope that Edmonton takes a way different approach to their development and learns from the lessons of Holloway and Broberg, as these 2 players could be massive wildcards for this team. But what do you think? Does he sign? I think so. But without a doubt, it's going to be a nail-biting season for Oilers fans. I'd really appreciate a like on this video, and as always, thanks for watching.